Much like Activision Blizzard, Paradox Interactive have apparently been busy abusing, mistreating, and discriminating against their employees, which seems rather mean, Paradox. I thought you were supposed to be an inclusive and diverse friendly company, not a sexual harasser like Activision, and yet 69% of your female employees, the ones that were asked for this survey, said that they had experienced abusive treatment. That's downright mean, I think. I mean, granted, they are Swedish, so a certain amount of abuse might be deserved, yet... Nevertheless, even as a far superior Norwegian, I feel like 69% is a little high. Maybe we scale it down to about 40, you know? Okay, so, to get serious here for a moment, because this is one of those interesting things where I'm kind of thinking immediately, alright, is this an actual problem or is this a manufactured problem? Because here's the thing, this report here is a leaked report and it is not an internal Paradox report, it is a report that was created amongst union members working at Paradox. Now, this article here at gamesindustry.biz doesn't go into the details of that, but the original Swedish article says quite clearly that they are leaked documents here that talks about bullying, insulting people, and a culture of silence. Tystnadskultur. To my ever-living shame and disgust, I do understand a fair bit of Swedish, but the structure of it, it's so really close to Norwegian and yet also so weird in a strange way. And incidentally, as they've got a picture of here as well, which is, you bring this up. That's weird, because indeed, ex-CEO Ebba Ljungerud and the current CEO Fredrik Wester are now in charge. Well, ex-CEO, why do you have her here then? Oh, that's because this is recent news. Oh yes. Ebba was, not let go. She parted ways with Paradox over differing views on company strategy, and this was like 3 or 4 days ago, I think. Yes, the 2nd of September, so this is very recent. And then a report leaks alleging abuse, gender discrimination, and a culture of silence. Indeed. So again, this here thing came from 2 Swedish union groups, Unionen and Sveriges Ingenjörer, which is the union, actually literally union means the union. It is I believe it is the largest union group in Sweden with some 500,000 members, something like that, and the Swedish Engineers Union, claiming that 44% of the 133 employees who took part have experienced mistreatment at the company. And of course that was 69% of the female employees. Again, these would be members of the union then. So this would be a poll taken by the unions without Paradox knowledge, and then that was presumably intended to be kept either confidential within the union, and maybe they'd bring it up to Paradox privately, or maybe they'd give it to Paradox as like, hey, here you go, we're doing our job, or something like that. And instead, it happened to pop its way into the newspapers. Again, coinky-dinkies there, absolutely. And this comes, I believe, about 2 years or so after Paradox said that they absolutely welcomed unions into their companies because it would give them a fairer work environment. Well, if you're going to do that, you should stop abusing your employees. It's a little counterproductive, frankly. But there's the kicker as well, isn't it? I've talked about this before. The problem with unions is that for all of the good they can do, what often ends up happening is that they run out of actual genuine problems, like genuine gender discrimination, or pay disparities, or unsafe working conditions, stuff like that. And so, as they are now a huge organization with a lot of people on payroll, they need to figure out some new way to keep the membership fees rolling in. And one of the easiest ways in recent years has been to allege various, shall we say, more left-wingish violations of one's human rights. We're not talking about limbs getting cut off anymore, or proper discrimination. We're talking about things like women and men earning different amounts. Heavy emphasis on the earning part there. And that's also why you've got quotation marks mistreatment. Which tells me that in all due likelihood, this survey had a fairly broad category, asking a lot of questions with maybe multiple answers, perhaps like, have you ever felt that a boss didn't take you seriously? Stuff like that. And then they figured like, okay, all of this, one box, mistreatment. Alternatively, this could be an actual genuine survey as well. Maybe there is a real problem at Paradox Interactive. They are Swedes, after all, so we really should not be giving them an overly charitable point of view, I think. But that's just the Norwegian in me, of course. Though again, man, you saw this over at Activision Blizzard, right? What appears to be going on there is a blatant power grab where all of the serious accusations disappeared awfully quickly. And now the Californian state agency, which is alleging all of these various things that Activision has done, they're saying that Activision is shredding evidence. You see, they're destroying evidence. That's why we don't have any. I mean, alright. That is one potential explanation. The other is that maybe you didn't quite have so much that you thought you had, and now that this has already hit all of the medias and has basically done all of the damage it possibly can to Activision Blizzard's reputation, and has put in motion a wave of internal programs as well, which have seen people rise to positions that I suspect they may not have necessarily been the best for. Maybe it's time to be, okay, well, let's negotiate now. You're just gonna have to, what was that suggestion? Oh yes, some diversity officers. It's entirely possible that this is a little bit of the same thing. Paradox has been a fairly successful company, and there is also the departure of the female CEO, being replaced by the old male CEO. Now, Ebba has presided over some pretty marked failures, absolutely. Imperator Rome, for example, was an absolute abomination. Completely and utterly rejected by the entire fandom and the casual fan base as well, because, as it turns out, the core fans, they don't matter so long as you get access to the casual fans, but the people that actually give you the word of mouth to get into the wider audience just so happens to be your actual fans. And so when Imperator got bad word of mouth, it flopped miserably, and for good reasons. There was also, of course, the whole Europa Universalis, various DLC expansions, quote-unquote, which have been absolute garbage now for years, with the Top of the Mountain being the most recent one, which not only didn't it work, it actually broke the rest of the game too. Alrighty then. Not to mention, of course, Vampire. Oh boy indeed. And we know next to nothing about the absolute nuclear fallout that must have occurred on that game. All we know is there was a lot of bad blood. The companies themselves apparently got in each other's throat, and Paradox just stopped talking to people outright. And then, of course, there's also the firing of their entire quality control department. Yeah, not knowing too much about the internal workings of Paradox, of course, Ebba has had a rocky patch at the helm of Paradox. Now, is that her fault? I don't know. Was she incompetent? I don't know. We simply don't know. Or maybe this is in fact an internal power struggle that saw her come out on the losing end. Now, with the old CEO being the one to step in and take charge, and just the way it was written, I read the press release when she was stepping down, and just reading between the lines, I got a distinct feeling of a little bit of a GTFO woman kind of feel to it. Little bit. All of those usual phrases that you say when you kind of don't like somebody, but you want to part ways to keep it all civil so everyone can keep each other on their resumes, etc. That kind of parting. Oh, no, there's no internal problems. We just have a difference of opinion, you see. And therefore, I could no longer be the CEO. Really? Your opinion was so different that the CEO had to go? Right. Well, that certainly does suggest a rather strident difference of opinion, most certainly. And again, differing views and company strategy. Leaked documents showing discrimination, mistreatment, and abuse. I wouldn't be surprised if we were to see a little bit of a more active power struggle within Paradox emerge over this. Let's see what happens, I guess. For right now, there ain't enough to go on, really, to make any real assumptions. This could be genuine, just like the Activision Blizzard thing could have been genuine too, but from what we've seen there, it's looking more and more unlikely. But, again, they are Swedes, and we should assume the worst. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.